I don't have a speech, and this book is also about COVID. Just kidding. I just felt sort of like, I don't have a speech. What am I going to do? So I just kind of fly by the seat of my pants all the time, which usually works. That's why I have books published, I guess. I don't even know what I'm going to read. But this book came out of COVID, actually. Well, no, sorry, it didn't come out of COVID. It came out of leaving a job that I was not happy in. It was a job that was sort of, dulling my spirit. And so I went to the doctor and I asked him, I said, I need something for my depression. He's like, well, what are you depressed about? Well, I don't want to wake up. I just want to, deal with the things I'm dealing with. And I said, I also need something to sleep. He's like, well, why can't you sleep? Because I'm thinking about my job all the time. He's like, well, quit your job. So I did just that. And I went back to school and got my MFA at UBC and had Dina as a teacher in my comedy class, so that was fun. That was amazing. So I don't even know what I'm going to read. I wanted to write this book because I felt like a fraud being a poet in not even my own language. So there's some Korean here. And I wanted to break the rules of syntax and grammar and all that. And so this is it. And I'm not even sure what I'm going to read. Let me see. So this one is called There's No Awasasak Here, which means there's no children here. And it was written after the children were found, 215 children, and I was staying with my daughter at home. And I felt like a wave of grief because I was like, I'm here with my daughter. I get to be with my daughter. And I just thought about how many people couldn't be with their kids, and I was like, so there was some grief there. So it's called There's No Awasasak Here, which is there's no children here. Saskatoon berry juices run down silky smooth sugar grin, rounded, recognized, treasured, face dimpled in tang, smiles and grace. Tall grasses sway behind child's silhouette. Sun, steadfastness, devotion, and nimama. Tiny, muddy hands streak on Mama's expansive width that has held many luminescent spirits in her wombiverse, never knowing the future and not longing to know either, generous with love like it was the only truth, and it really was. Skinned knees and mosquito bites lying in cool grasslands, looking up at Creator sky, trusting it not to fall, the only constant. Trusting gravity, trusting nimama to always catch you when you fell and pick you up. And that was your story. Chestnut hair in summer, sun parted down the middle, nimama's creation, 2 braids freshly picked sweetgrass, turning, twisting, complete. Absorbed, steadfast sun who will always be there like nimama. Who knew how to braid hair because her nimama braided hers, and that was her story, and her mother braided hers, and that was their story. Kisses upon satin Saskatoon-soaked face, soft callous fingers slide and rest upon trusting back. Shh. Like rain on empty teepee, like rain on empty longhouse. Shh. Tanned skin like sweet ripened chokecherry, nestled next to mother, nestled next to father, nestled next to grandmother. Nestled, staring up at open skies into the night, admiring the sagging clouds that would always be there, deciphering the nehiao shapes in the sky. Wapos si pasqualmostus askipawa ne mama ne papa nukum mosum, untouched by treason, untouched by reason, to create new nehi away win words, Poof, poof, poof. English. They cry for their nimama in English. They cry for their nimama in English. Mud staining the faces of the unborn, leaving a trail of smeared mud body, grooved drags. Even the eagles cried and flew higher, and they stayed high. And the spiritually stripped followed suit, and they stayed high too. There's no awasasak here. Pressed flowers between waxed paper, melted into colonial preserves of cell memory jam, hanging on by calcium-deficient fingernails and obligation. Trodden lost spirits, lifeless, oppressed apparitions, disappear like smoke. Poof. There's no children here. So that poem, I was doing a class at UBC, and I was trying to keep my daughter busy at the same time, so we did that wax paper with the flowers in between, and we ironed it, and she thought that was just the best, and I was like, oh my God, really? So that came out of that. I still have that piece. I really don't know what to read. I'm just going to read this. This was more like prose. It's called Get Messy in This Moment with COVID on the Horizon. So this is me and my daughter staying home. And I often wondered, should I be going to school because maybe the world's ending? I'm just going to go to school anyway. So this is that time when we're trying to stay home and stay sane with my daughter, who is at home for pretty much 2 years. This moment in time, I sit here answering my daughter's questions over and over and over as I trail behind her, cleaning sprinkles of flour and grains of salt all over the floor left from her trying to make a dumpling in the microwave out of the mixture she made, which resembles Play-Doh. She asked me to try a bite, and I do, because at this point, seeing her disappointed face isn't on my list of things to do or fix today. It tastes like Play-Doh, and I imagine her petting the 2 dogs and the 2 cats before she gets down to business and needs a little dough ball the size of a small, delicious plum. Only this isn't a delicious plum. This is a creation made by a daughter who is bored out of her mind, who is staying home with mom, 2 dogs, 2 cats, a gecko, and her older brother who stays in his room most of the time, even before COVID. I am trying to keep up with my schoolwork as we fall behind in hers, and still her smile as she makes herself a melted cheese sandwich in the microwave for the first time today, and just how proud she is as she hands me a small corner of it, and I bite knowing her hands probably taste like salt from the Play-Doh plum dumpling she tried to make a little earlier. I am in the same room as she does all this, and I offer spare words of advice I toss over my shoulder, and little watchful looks from my screen to her and her unicorn shirt. Like only 30 seconds, not too much salt, wash your hands, try not to get the flour on the floor, watch out, it's hot, and I declare I'll do the honors and cut the crusts off. Many times throughout her 8 years on this suffering Mother Earth, I have stood by the microwave watching the plate spin as her cheese melted. For some odd reason, my beautiful child likes to eat melted cheese, we call it. And it's not real melted cheese if it doesn't have 2 slices of fresh, soft white bread and processed cheese. Melted cheese is my usual thing, but today she looks at me typing like my life depends on it, and I really think it does. I think she gets a moment of clarity and compassion for another person as she asks me, "Mommy, tell me how you make melted cheese, I can do it." And still a barrage of questions assault me. Can I use 2 cheeses? Can I cut off the crust if I use a butter knife? Can I use a scissors? How about a scissors? How long do I put it in for? Did you make melted cheese when you were small? I shake my head and I do not tell her we didn't have a microwave. And I didn't tell her my mom left when I was 5. That's another story for another time that doesn't have any melted cheese in it, but it does talk of melted lives and hearts. I let her make Play-Doh plum dumplings because who am I to stop her from keeping her mind busy as I see the wheels spinning in her perfect head, as she sees her little dumplings spinning round and round in the microwave, looking more like the crust left over in a used bannock bowl left overnight. She's 8. She's missing out on very important relationships, very important lessons in school about the art of being with other human beings and learning to navigate the world around her. How can I, a survivor of trauma, teach this little one that this world is not a place to fear when COVID just kicked the world in the royal pain in the ass with a fuck you boot? How many parents besides me feel inadequate and are worried we will mess up our children? We all, as a universe without any soul connectivity, bumbled our way through 2020, 2021, and 2022, hoping and probably no longer praying for COVID to be manageable. Dead. Anything of the past, like children's childhood of 2020, 2021, and 2022. Hopefully all of our self-isolating will keep us safe, and hand washing isn't as important if we stay home and pretend the world doesn't exist. I say to myself, and to no one in particular, except on this fresh page, I don't know if I can do it. Whatever else choice do we have as my daughter grows up, isolating because she must, and me isolating because I want to. We're like vampires in the night on our evening strolls to take our dogs to the park, avoiding people like the plague. So that one, I'm going to find a really short one. I don't have any happy ones in here, sorry. Let's see. Okay, there's another COVID one. Just kidding. Isolation with an 8-year-old. It was an interesting year. 2 years. Mom! Mom! Mom, come play with me. You have to play with me. You're my mom. Mom. Mom! Why do you always do homework? What about me? Mom, the cat scratched me. Mom, where's the cat? Mom, I'm hungry, I'm dying. Really? Hungry. Mom, can I have juice? Mom, my favorite time of day is lying in bed with you. Mom, let's tell jokes. Knock, knock. Who's there? Who's there? Who's there? Frog. Frog who? Don't open the door. You're scared of frogs. Ha, 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 ha. Gulp. I think I would open the door to a frog and even kiss it if isolation went away. So that's isolation with an 8-year-old. Thank you.